I have to ask you about the state of research in India. You've studied at IIT Kanpur,
Yes.
got a PhD from Caltech, then you worked as a postdoc at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, then worked at the Fermi Lab, then you moved back to India.
Yes.
Every year there's this massive brain drain that happens in India. All the brightest minds leave the country because they feel research, academia, it's much better in the West. One of your friends told you ki if I work in research in India, my dal chawal to khareed lunga, but can I afford fruit?
Yeah.
What do you think is the state of research in India right now? And can you afford fruit?
All right. Yes, you can afford fruit. Let me say that. Our salaries have gone up many-fold since I came back in 99. And you can have a very good and comfortable life in India doing academics and so on. But no, to come back to your original question, I think, the research ecosystem in India is good, vibrant, and getting better. And already when I came back in 99, there were people who had come back before me, for example, working in string theory and so on, who had done landmark work, Ashok Sen is one example, won the Breakthrough Award for work done in India and so on. So those examples are there. Of course, there are examples of great work done in mathematics and so on from TIFR also, Seshadri and Narasimhan and so on and so forth. So there has always been a great tradition, but the tradition is broadening. There's of course Raman's experimental work in physics and, broadening out to many other areas. The government is putting in more resources. Slowly, the private sector is beginning to put in resources. It still needs some ways to go. And overall, the ecosystem is getting better, right? Having said that, there still, I would say, are formidable obstacles and issues we need to address. And, I was the director of the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, one of India's, if I may say, premier scientific research organizations. And I took that job in the hope, that I could make some sort of a small difference. I don't know if I succeeded, but what it did give me is a kind of overview of some of these issues, right? And I'll summarize, if you will allow me, in 2 or 3 sentences.
Take your time.
What are these issues?
This is important. Don't summarize.
Okay, yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, thank you. I would put it generally as follows. You see, we are a country which has come through extreme hardship, right? And it's remarkable what we achieved. Let us not forget that at the time of independence, we were a country that could not feed itself. You see, there were famines. We had to go with a begging bowl to USPL 480, etc. and, literally beg. From that, look at where we have reached today, right? And it's remarkable. But, a country which goes through such hardship, it has a frame of mind. It's like, suppose you went through extreme poverty in the early stages of your life. Then you became well-to-do. You don't change your inherent behavioral patterns, because, it's part of who you were. India has gone through that experience. It is still very much part of how we view expenditure, allocation of funds, and so on. And and there's good reason for it, because it's not as if we have climbed out completely of that sort of difficult situation. We are only slowly getting to be a middle income kind of country. Result is, when government funding comes for science, it comes with extreme oversight, penny pinching and scrutiny. Now, as TIFR director, there were 3 audits that were done every year of my institution. The Council of TIFR had its auditors. The Government of India, CAG, appointed by Parliament, had its auditors. The Department of Atomic Energy, under whose purview we come for funding, had its auditors. Neither was willing, it seemed to be necessary. The government did not trust the council audit, etc. At any one instant of time, there was an audit going on. TIFR director had to be explaining expenditure. And let me tell you at what level. My total budget was about 600 crores a year. The audit reports would go down to 10,000 rupees. Okay, I would be personally asked. Now, this is because there's an extreme emphasis on making sure money is not ill spent, right? But when you have this kind of, extreme scrutiny, right? What happens is the leeway one needs okay, to do science, to spend for science, to go in new directions, get extremely curtailed.
You're less likely to be experimental or going to radical directions.
Exactly.
Because every penny counts, right?
And you have to justify it. You know, I have to present a plan of the research I'm going to do 5 years in advance in one shot. Against that plan, which is scrutinized and approved and so on, money is allocated. 5-year plans have died, but roughly speaking, this procedure of how to have projects and allocate is roughly speaking, may not be 5, it may be 3, but whatever. Now, if I find as director of TIFR that a new direction is coming to the fore, that there is a young person abroad whom I can bring back, who works in this direction, that I need to, put in money. You see, I haven't projected it 3 years advance. I can't do it. I have to go to the government. I have to do this. In principle, everything can be done. In practice, it is so complicated. It comes in the way. So, in other words, if there was a more outcome-based assessment of expenditure, not an of investment, not a extreme expenditure based. आपने हर फूटी कौड़ी किस लिए खर्चा? Instead of that, you ask, what were you trying to achieve? What was the outcome you sought? Did you take a rational amount of scientific risk for it? Make sure money is not going into my bank account as administrator, of course. But after that, have an understanding on outcome-based, expenditure. Then that is how science will advance. See, the developed countries do it like that. Of course, there is scrutiny of public money everywhere, but with a certain degree of understanding, a leeway, that comes with what people who are directing science get. We are yet to get there, okay? And it's very important. This is one important thing. How do you both allocate funds and how do you scrutinize their allocation? The other is, even after allocation, government funds often don't come on time. Now this is a killer for science. You see, my R&D budget, we are very, very lucky in TIFR, okay? But my R&D budget would fluctuate by a factor of 100%. What was allocated, 50% of that would come some years, okay, in a bad year. And we are among the best, most privileged. I'm most grateful for where we are in the funding situation, but that is the situation. Everyone getting a grant from central agencies, DBT, CSIR, etc., lives in dread कि पैसा जो promise किया नहीं आया, 3 साल की grant है, 1 साल आया, 2 साल नहीं आया. हम research scholars को कैसे पैसे देंगे, अपने postdocs को कैसे पैसे देंगे, वो लोग अपना पेट कैसे भरेंगे? You cannot do science like this, okay? And this is purely a matter of the country not having adjusted to where it stands in its level of GDP, etc. Today we have enough. See, I believe we have enough. Okay, wealth, we have enough. Even what government allocates to spending for R&D, that much better administration can be done. Every year you say these funds are promised and ring-fenced. We will give them. बाकी की बात हो या ना हो, ये हमारी commitment है, हम meet करेंगे. This can be done. See, but it's not being done. I was very fed up with these kinds of things, So in summary, we have many issues to fix, but there is tremendous potential, and I am sure India will do remarkably well. I'm eternally optimistic about our great country, but there are important things to fix. They have to do with funding, both how it's allocated, how it's administered and scrutinized, and that, along with accountability, can lead us to go very far when done properly. But this has to be fixed. Government should fix it,
Scrutiny in principle is good, I think, because in many places where funds could leak out. But taking the broader context, where given the work that TIFR is doing and how monumental it is, and then given how there's not much scrutiny on other industries and money is just leaking out, I just feel like it's a waste of that much energy to scrutinize all the great work that's been done here and give you guys some leeway, because science really progresses if it's given some freedom to flourish. I'm with you. I think the power and potential in this country and the minds here, it's incredible. You are one of them, and the work you have done with theoretical physics, I think it's monumental, and it's a crime that you're not on the same level as a Bollywood star, but we'll make it happen. This episode will be the turning point, I hope.